The Russians have consistently underestimated Ukrainians, and it's just coming back to bite them. They said it was impossible to hit, if you listen to Russian analysts, so deep behind Russian lines as they did yesterday. So I'm going to show you a number of these things. It is Wednesday, October 8th. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Darren Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide context in the war in Ukraine. I do these every day, so if you want to keep informed, please consider hitting subscribe. Fighters of the 27th Pershik Brigade of the National Guard destroyed a Russian TOS-1A heavy flamethrower system. It's not flamethrower like old flamethrowers like you'd hold and they would blow flames. It's like a rocket system using drone strikes. So here it is being destroyed. And if we just go back a little bit, you can see the bomb. That's the bomb that's going down toward it from the drone. And yeah, and this is what it was once upon a time. Okay. That's the least of Russia's concerns, though. Novorossiysk, excuse me, my pronunciation. Russia, a fire has been reported at the premises of JSC plant Solder, which specializes in manufacturing electronics and microchips and things along these lines. This thing's on fire. But the thing is not what it is or even what it produces or that sort of thing. It's where it is. Massive blaze erupted in this electronics plant, a facility that manufactures defense microchips, engulfing 2,000 square meters. It's reasonably sizable. Large fire hit this factory, electronics plant, destroying one of its workshops. And so you're seeing the smoke billowing. You're seeing here's some more of the smoke billowing. You can see that, right? Okay, now where is it? That's the real trick. Whoa, this is on the other side of Kazakhstan. Like, it's almost to the border of Mongolia. So I'm not sure that it was a drone strike. I know it's on fire, but I'm not exactly sure why. I read nothing indicating that it was actually a drone strike, but it's clearly going up. Now, it's not the only one. Gentle petals of a fire brush against the building of number 43 of the Ural Turbine Factory, a factory that serves military and civilian needs. It's in Yekaterinburg. That name should ring a bell for military reasons. Here's Anna from Ukraine explaining what happened here.
Hello guys, and can you guess why one of the largest Russian turbine plants in Yekaterinburg is on fire right now?
She said that a lot better than I did, didn't she?
And I'm not talking about these obvious reasons, like someone smoked or the unsuccessful landing of the Ukrainian drone. I'm talking about the real reason. Right, because turbines are needed for the repairs of the Russian oil refineries. Russians cannot buy the parts abroad in the European Union or the United States, and they try producing them on the factories inside the Russian Federation. But even these plants explode, just as dozens of oil refineries and pumping stations and pipelines and even oil export ports like Tuapse and Novorossiysk. That is the strategy.
Yep, that's a strategy. So they're hitting chip manufacturer, they're hitting a turbine factory that they can't easily replace. The Ukrainians are being incredibly strategic. By the way, where is this? Yekaterinburg, or however she said it, which was better, all the way out here. Like if we, this is about halfway through Kazakhstan. So it's pretty, and here's the other one that I was talking about. Okay, now locals are also reporting a possible strike on an oil depot in occupied Crimea, but this needs further verification. So just take that one with a grain of salt. It may or may not have happened. Of course, they keep going after oil depots and refineries. But notice what the Ukrainians are doing. They're going after legitimate military targets that are going to degrade either military or economic purposes, which is different than what the Russians are doing. Here's a Ukrainian new high-speed drone targeting in Russian Belgorod. Listen to it. That is a Ukrainian drone heading out into Belgorod. Now, the Russians are now testing their own copy of these intercept drones that we've been talking about in the last few days. This is one of them going up in the air. And one of them landing. So Technology is a real horse race between the Russians and the Ukrainians. And Ukraine seems to have a bit of an advantage, but it's only going to lag for so long before the Russians copy and catch up. Okay, 154 enemy drones out of 183 Russian drones were shot down. 22 strikes on 11 locations. And where did they hit? Well, Putin's forces hit Kryvyi Rih. That's Zelensky's hometown. It's a really long city, and they damaged some infrastructure, homes, that sort of thing. It's the same thing that they normally do. Now, that's what they normally do, but they're also intentionally striking power plants now because they're kind of getting this, trying to do what they've done each winter before this, trying to destroy or degrade Ukrainian power so that it's going to just put Ukrainians in the cold and put the lights out. 2 people were killed in Kherson and 5 wounded in Dnipro Oblast as Russia launched 183 drones against Ukraine overnight. They also hit this in Praluki, Chernihiv region. They're urging residents to close windows and stay indoors. This is in Ukraine. After a Russian strike hit an oil depot, a massive cloud of smoke has covered the city. So the Russians can do this to the Ukrainians, just like the Ukrainians can do it to the Russians. By the way, here's where this is located. It's not a place that we talk about very often, but they can do it too. But it doesn't have the same impact to Ukraine that it has to Russia. Ukraine's budget isn't built on these oil depots. Russia's budget is. So it's asymmetric when the Ukrainians do this to the Russians. It doesn't have the same impact to the Ukrainians. It's not a good thing, of course. The Russians also hit a hummus factory in Ukraine. I mean, I'm not even sure what to say to that. A hummus factory. Why? What's the point of that? The plant suffers serious damage and has been forced to temporarily halt production and deliveries. Okay. I mean, I prefer that they hit a hummus factory than that they hit soldiers or especially civilians. Okay. 100. I'm not saying that's a good thing, by the way, that they're hitting a hummus factory. I'm just saying in proportion or comparison. Okay, you understand. 1,010 Russians off the battlefield. Again, it's about 1,000 as an average between now and New Year's Day to get to another 100,000 casualties since the last 100,000. Okay, 2 tanks. Why are these tank numbers so low? I'll show you in just a moment. 5 armored fighting vehicles. 26 artillery systems, 75 vehicles and fuel tanks day over day. Okay, engagements up. This is Ragnar Gudmundsson's dashboard. Engagements up. Casualties remain above average. But then this caught my eye. Increased strikes. Strikes included 3 ammo depots. I didn't talk about those 3 ammo depots yesterday, and there's a lag. So this wasn't last night. This was day over day, the day before. Okay. For Cross, this is the place that we want to keep our eyes focused on, the place that is the high water mark for fighting. 37 assaults. That's pretty low for 1,000 casualties. Zelensky says he has a good report from the head of security service of Ukraine, Vasily Maluk. He's the guy behind Operation Spiderweb. Maluk reported on the results of our long-range strikes conducted by the security service forces. Drone missiles are demonstrating growing effectiveness. For Cross sector, we note that Russian troops have been ordered. Now, before I talk about Cross, so those strikes, those long-range hits that I was showing you, I don't know if they're drone strikes or missiles or just some kind of sabotage. Could have been a faulty, an errant cigarette, but I doubt that one. But I'm not sure what caused it, but nonetheless, the effect is still there. Okay, the Cross sector. We note that Russian troops have been ordered to storm our positions at all costs. As a result, Russian losses have increased substantially. Yeah, and you're seeing that there's evidence of this kind of thing. Only 6 people, this Russian soldier says, only 6 people survived out of 100 in one battle. Wow. The entire company wiped out. We were attacking Novopil. Russian contract soldier from Vladivostok recounts the catastrophic losses suffered during attempts to advance toward the administrative border of Donetsk Oblast. Remember, this is the administrative border that Putin has, 3 or 4 times now said that he gave a date that we'll seize it by this date, and that date came and went many times. Okay, now, I was talking about tanks earlier. Why are there so few tanks on the battlefield? Where was I? Here. Why are there so few tanks being taken off the battlefield? Well, there just aren't a lot there. Look at this. According to calculations made by OSINT researchers, the amount of Russian tanks in decent condition remaining in storage is zero. 1,656 are in poor condition, and then 12,031 Russian tanks are in worse condition, according to the researchers. So you have this and you have that. So you have roughly almost 3,000 tanks that you could somehow do something with, maybe, but you'd have to completely gut and yeah, how many in decent condition? Again, this is according to some OSINT researchers. Meanwhile, Ukraine is only operated 15 unmanned ground vehicles in 2022, and now the Netherlands just funded delivery of 150 more. This is the future that you're looking at. Unmanned, like just like UAVs in the air, UAVs on the ground. That's the future. Okay, Ukraine's destroying Russian troops in using forest supply routes that it abandoned near Yampol weeks ago. Drone operators who held these positions know every path, turning Russia's advance through Serbryansky forest into a kill zone. So that's what's going on there. And then, we think about soldiers as being big and strong, and they need to be. But drone operators, not necessarily. I met a Ukrainian drone pilot. This is Business Ukraine magazine. I met a Ukrainian drone pilot who looked like an adolescent gamer. He'd killed about 200 Russians in the preceding year. One of his fellow pilots told me that's the kind of rate Ukraine must maintain in order to survive as a nation. So the drone operators, they understand this, and they punch way above their weight. Okay, Ukrainian FPV hits a Russian drone pilot. This is a Russian drone pilot. The FPV is coming home. The Russian soldier is trying to land his own drone while standing in a doorway of his hideout. You can see him in the thermal. Another drone followed him, and that drone pilot is no longer, walking Earth. 3 years ago, first SBU strike on the Crimean Bridge. And I'm showing this for a reason, not just because it's 3 years ago today, but because the Russians have consistently underestimated what Ukrainians can do. 3 years ago, first SBU strike on a Crimean bridge marked a turning point. 21-ton TNT explosion turned a damaged structure and temporarily cut Russia's key supply route to southern occupied Ukraine. That was 3 years ago today. And then finally, I'll leave you with this, because I'm always looking for metaphor videos. And if you had to bet between these two animals, who's going to win? I mean, most people would put it on a snake, but I think that, that mongoose isn't playing any games. And it seems to be a decent metaphor for what's going on in Ukraine. I mean, I think, my first martial arts instructor used to teach us this, that you're looking not for power, but you're looking for speed, because speed can turn into power. And that's kind of what is going on with Ukraine. Tell me what you think about that. Put that in the comments below. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.